The Maple Leafs have made multiple shocking moves following John Tavares going down with a brutal injury. We have a major update on that front. We're going to break that down and discuss some other moves that they made, as well as some huge injury updates ahead of tonight's game against the New Jersey Devils. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. We're getting very close. And also, we're going to be live following tonight's game, hopefully talking about a Toronto Maple Leafs win. But ladies and gentlemen, we had a video on it last night. John Tavares went down with an injury. Darius, it was not worst case scenario, but it's also not great news as the Leafs have made some moves because of this. And we're seeing a familiar face in Fraser Minten get recalled, but they've placed John Tavares on the IR, so he's going to miss at least 3 games. He's week to week, which we'll dive into a little bit here. But Darius, it's not a minor injury. He's definitely not playing tonight. He's going to be out for the foreseeable-ish future. And Fraser Minten has been called up, and we're going to dive into lines and things like that. But a very unfortunate, I'll say, event that happened. And quite frankly, it's really, really bad luck.
I mentioned in a video yesterday when we were discussing the injury to John Tavares that, these injuries that, you don't see a player take a hit immediately, right? You don't see something that's very obvious for the injury. Those ones scare me the most and are usually the most detrimental to a player. And it seems like that's the case. He's week to week at this point. That is not great for, first of all, him because of the season he's having and the Toronto Maple Leafs. They need this guy in the lineup to be their second line center. And in terms of Fraser Minten, obviously calling him up, the plan earlier this season was to have Fraser Minten play the entire year in the AHL and continue to develop. I feel like he's going to play more time in the NHL at this point than in the AHL. He keeps getting called up, but I think that's a testament to his play and how mature his game is. And I think that's great and a great sign for Leaf fans right now. But again, I would prefer him to be with the Marlies, but when things like this call, he's going to come and answer the bell. So I think that's great. Obviously, it's another great option to have for the Toronto Maple Leafs. A young guy that can come up and make an impact from the Marlies. This is something that they haven't had in droves the last couple of years. So I'm excited to see him play. He's going to inject a little bit of energy back into the lineup, right? Because of who he is and what he brings to the team. So I think that could be something to look for tonight because it's a pretty big game. Former coach is coming back into the building here, and you need a win bad.
Yeah, and you can see here John Tavares week to week now. Whether that means he's going to miss a couple weeks, it could be all the way up to, of course, we've seen week to week be month to month, and then the Leafs obviously play it down a little bit. And touching on John Tavares this season a little bit here, 42 points in 44 games. He's producing at almost a point per game clip, which is pretty impressive. And ultimately, when you look at John Tavares as a player, you didn't expect at his age to put up following 65 points last season, to come in, have such a dominant year so far at age 34. And this is his contract year. So for him to go down with an injury, if he misses, hopefully we'll think about best case scenario, he misses only 5-ish games. That's not a huge deal. But if he starts to miss a little bit more, and when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, you look at where they are in the standings right now. Again, they're barely holding on to first in the Atlantic. They're going to continue to hopefully hold on to that. They need to win tonight. But they're on a 3-game losing streak. Florida's right behind you, and and you can see at the bottom right here, they're 1 point behind the Toronto Maple Leafs following a win yesterday, or whenever that game was for the Panthers. The Leafs need to win these games, and John Tavares, especially with how bad and quite frankly atrocious the power play has been, they desperately need it. And we're seeing it tonight with, it's going to be interesting to see what the lines end up being. We haven't gotten those released yet, but as, the latest we saw of it yesterday, obviously had Tavares in the second line and Nye's back on that first line, but the lines are going to be a bit of a mystery tonight. We have some more updates as well, but any final thoughts on Johnny T?
Yeah, just an unfortunate injury, obviously. Like, this is a guy who usually stays healthy an entire season, right? Like, he's been an Ironman in that way. So very unfortunate for him. He's been having a great season, like you alluded to. I mean, he's almost a point a game player at his age, but I mean, like, he is he was an exceptional status player. Like, I was expecting him in the long term to be able to play this way, like Sidney Crosby, until he's like 36, 37, right? But obviously after last year, there's a lot of question marks that pop up, but he's kind of silenced that. And since, having the captaincy removed as well, it looks like there's a bit of a weight taken off his shoulders too. He's been playing really well this season. So hopefully he comes back in short order. Hopefully the IR placement is more of just a precaution as well, so they're able to call somebody up, and hopefully he's back in 3 games. That would be nice. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the lines look like without him. I would assume Fraser Minten just maybe slots into that second line role there.
Yeah, and let's dive into some of the updates ahead of tonight's game. So Joseph Woll is going to get the start in goal. Stolarz was out early working, is now taking a few shots. Stolarz looks like his return might actually be towards the end of January rather than some point in mid-February. He is not going to say nearing a return yet, because that's a bit early. Not going to preemptively do that, but he is going to return pretty soon here. And it's very good. Again, I'm not ready to preemptively say he's going to be back in the next week or two. He's going to be out till at least the end of the month, but Anthony Stolarz is going to be a huge boost to this team. And speaking of a huge boost, Jake McCabe is playing tonight, and a report came out from Darren Dreger that it was most likely going to be a Saturday return. So in a time where John Tavares goes down, Jake McCabe is going to return tonight. Bobby McMahon says he brings the calmness to the defense. He also brings the intensity. He is back and will play tonight. And again, we don't have any of the lines. They haven't been, out yet, though reports have said that Fraser Minton's not going to factor into the lineup. So my guess is that Connor Dewar, who was originally going to be scratched, factors back in. So now you have a lineup tonight of Connor Dewar, Pontus Holmberg, and Nick Robertson all together here. But Jake McCabe is back, which means we assume that Connor Timmins is probably going to be the odd one out unless they take out Philip Myers, which could be an interesting play here. But Joseph Woll, Bobby McMahon, and of course, Anthony Stolarz is nearing a return as well, which is very intriguing and encouraging. Just as the Leafs started to get healthy and we could start being positive, John Tavares goes out, which is unfortunate, but a lot of good news here and a very quiet day when it comes to, optional skates. And
well, they were on the ice a little bit. Yeah, they were working on some stuff this morning, but it's been very quiet the last little while in terms of practices and skates and stuff like that. And obviously Tavares getting injured in practice is not ideal, but some good news, Anthony Stolarz, right? Like nearing a return. I'll say it. He's nearing a return, right? We're about a week and a half away from what looks like his return. And I think that's great for the Leafs because the schedule has slowed down a little bit here compared to December. So I think that's great. And Jake McCabe, I've been saying it for a while. A lot of people think it's ridiculous to say that he might be one of the best defensemen on this team, or if you're relying this much on Jake McCabe, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't think that's right. I think that this guy is the glue guy, right? Like maybe this is not a guy that's going to go out and be a huge difference maker. He's not a number one defenseman, but he's a glue guy. When he's in the lineup, the lines just make more sense. The pairings make more sense. And he's a huge part of this team. The way he plays, the physicality that he brings, the fact that he initiates, he's one of the few on this team that initiates any type of physicality into games. So he needs to continue to do that. He's been a great factor for the Leafs this year. They're so much better with this guy in the lineup versus out. Love the contract extension. It's looking that much better because you can see the difference it makes when he's out of the lineup. So it's going to be awesome. Obviously, Bobby McMahon with some great praise for his teammate there. And I think Jake McCabe is a huge part of this team. He should probably be wearing a letter, honestly, the way that he plays and what he brings to the table. So love his play, and he should be back there with Tanev. We'll see exactly how that shapes up closer to game time, but should be an interesting game. The Leafs desperately need a win here.
Could see a letter in his future for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And also, Sheldon Keefe came out and said that he told one of his, as soon as he left Toronto or got fired or whatever you want to call it, he said that every team needs, this is obviously before he got hired by the Devils, every team needs a Jake McCabe on their team, and he's right. He's very good. He got the extension. He's been rewarded, and if he can come back healthy, Anthony Stolarz can come back healthy, and then John Tavares can work his way back, things will hopefully start to look upwards. But regardless of that, they need to play tonight. They have a game. They need to take care of business. A 4-game skid. This is their biggest losing streak of the year tonight in the 3 games. They need to go ahead and take care of business against the Devils tonight. But let us know down below what your thoughts are on this. Are you concerned about John Tavares? Also, leave a prediction on when you think and what game you think Stolarz is going to return. Thank you guys for watching. See you.